Welcome to Card Corner. These are the cards, that's the corner. Today I've got these Bram Stoker's Dracula premium movie cards by Topps. Before I filmed this, I decided to check out the film so I can give you guys any context that I can remember from watching it, do a bit of a review, that kind of thing. The movie stars Keanu Reeves, it's got Winona Rider, Anthony Hopkins, it's even got Tom Waits. I think my favorite, though, is that it's got Gary Oldman as Dracula himself, which is a pretty crazy performance. So I'm just going to open them up and we can take it from there. So I think that this movie got sort of like dogged a bit. There's sort of a ridiculous look that they gave the Dracula character. And but I think that it was a pretty good movie. There is one thing that sort of dragged it down for me, which is Keanu Reeves had a terrible, terrible English accent through the whole movie. All right, looks like we can get some Dracula comics as well. Never read any of those, but it's probably be cool to check out. Not sure if they're for the movie or if they're just regular Dracula comics. All right, here he is. I think this is closer to the end of the movie after he got stabbed in the heart. So we're starting the first card with the last scene. In the chapel, old candles light themselves. The shadow of the crucifix moves across the floor as Mina, glowing, moves into the place and manner as when Elizabeth lay there. Dracula raises his eyes to see his lost love, and now Mina closes her eyes, prays for strength, and falls on Dracula with all her weight, driving the knife clear through his heart. So by the time the movie's like maybe like 2 hours long, and by the time it got to the end, I was definitely like, this movie sort of dragged a bit. But one thing that I think that they do really well is they have sort of different versions of Dracula. So he looks like charming at some times and then super scary at other times. Looks like this is a behind the scenes Francis Ford Coppola, I think that is. He's the director, the guy who directed Godfather and Apocalypse Now. And while it's definitely no Godfather or Apocalypse Now, I still sort of enjoyed watching it. I think it's worth checking out, especially if you're doing the Halloween movie thing. Yeah, director Francis Ford Coppola emphasizes the action in an early scene with Jonathan Harker, Keanu Reeves. Oh, I didn't even recognize him. Yeah, that is Keanu Reeves there. He also had this dorky haircut for most of it that sort of didn't really look like it fit in the time period. The score for Bram Stoker's Dracula is a shooting script illustrated with storyboards. This storyboard depicts Count Dracula last tasting blood after Harker cuts himself while shaving. I think that's the coolest part is in the early part of the movie where Keanu Reeves goes to Transylvania and is hanging out in Dracula's castle. They do a lot of really interesting effects that should have like obviously tipped him off that this is not a normal guy, like playing with the shadows and just him being a weirdo. I really like that sort of haunted house trope. They did it pretty well. All right, maybe this one's from the comics. So this is at the start of the movie where he is Vlad the Impaler. He goes out and does a bunch of stuff for the church, murders some pagans or whatever, and then when he comes back, his true love, which is also played by Winona Rider, had like jumped off of some high place and killed herself, and they said because she committed suicide, she's not able to go into heaven. So that is what sort of set off Dracula's rage. He ended up stabbing this cross, which started to bleed, and then he drank the blood and became Dracula. Illustrator Mike Mignola captures the agony suffered by Prince Dracula, who returns from the battlefield to find his beloved Elizabeth dead and renounced by the church for taking her own life. The priest was played by Anthony Hopkins, who also played Van Helsing. Kind of a cool double role there. Oh, and then we get a very nice picture of the Dracula at the start of the movie. He didn't really have this hair that he gets made fun of. The movie gets made fun of for a lot, but just at the start. Like a fly caught in a spider's web, Harker has become Count Dracula's prisoner. He lies curled in a fetal position before a barred window, journal at his feet. His eyes are now sunken and his hair has turned gray. He is a husk ravaged by fear and hunger. Keanu Reeves in jail. Yeah, I like that one. All right, here is Gary Oldman making out with Winona Rider. Using his long hair to seduce her, I guess. Mina breathes heavily, frightened and excited by Dracula's touch. Do not fear me, he whispers softly in Romanian. You are the love of my life. Mina's emotions are aflame. She is pulled to this handsome and enigmatic stranger in ways she doesn't understand. They spend a lot of the time, a lot of the movie time sort of seducing her, Dracula. Oh, I forget who this actor is, but that's a good shot of him. Richard E. Grant plays Dr. Jack Seward, the director of a London asylum who is eventually summoned to the battle against Dracula. Grant most recently starred in L.A. Story, Hudson Hawk, Mountains of the Moon, and With Nail and I. Have I seen any of those? I think I saw Hudson Hawk. I'm not super familiar with this guy. That's another good picture on the back, too. That's actually a really good picture of him. All right, here's Dracula's carriage, I think. Keanu Reeves gets picked up by some weird Dracula servant guy. Following specific instructions, Jonathan Harker arrives at the mysterious Borgo Pass in the dead of night and awaits the arrival of Count Dracula's coach. After dropping him off, the coach that brought Harker to the isolated mountain pass rumbles away. There he is looking at something. They take a bunch of the lines from the original, talking about how the wolves, what music they make, that line. All right, here's the crew. Anthony Hopkins playing Van Helsing. There's Keanu Reeves. Look, what a dork he looks like, hey? I think that's Carrie Elwes, the Princess Bride guy. Nice group picture, though. Professor Van Helsing and his team of vampire slayers prepare for an epic confrontation with Count Dracula. The score for Bram Stoker's Dracula is a shooting script illustrated with storyboards. This storyboard depicts Van Helsing holding the vampire Lucy at bay with a crucifix. So in the start, there's, I think, these three guys all wanted to marry this one chick, and then she picked one and then turned into a vampire, and then for some reason they're all still bros, and then they go defeat Dracula together. Here's another picture from the final battle. Dracula getting stabbed. This one, they didn't really do the, he gets destroyed by sunlight kind of thing, which is unfortunate. I kind of like that trope. Quincy, wounded by one of the gypsies, dives off the wagon and plunges his bowie knife deep inside to Dracula's heart. The vampire roars, flinging Quincy into the snow. Dying, Dracula writhes, clawing at the knife deep in his chest as the others watch. I like how they have different pictures for the front and the back, and they've, so far, I think, have been pretty good. Different angle, and I actually do quite like the border they picked. It's got a nice blood red sort of look there, and blood splatter on the back. All right, the last card in the pack is... This is when, I think when he first was attacking Winona Rider. And first he seduced her as a guy, and then turned into this guy and bit her on the neck, and this is them rushing in and trying to save her. Nice picture on the back too. They do like a lot of different versions of Dracula, which I think is a cool aspect of this one. Dracula in humanoid bat form challenges Van Helsing. Old fool, the grotesque creature snarls. You would destroy me with your idols? Van Helsing's crucifix, still in front of Dracula's face, flings itself away and bursts into flames. Nice. All right, I got one more pack here for you guys. Let's see if we can't get some kind of hologram or something like that. I'm not sure if those are in this, but that would be cool. I think this is another one at the end where he's dying. He turns back into handsome Gary Oldman. Another shot of the cross there. And here she is. She was already bit as a vampire, so she was sort of like his minion, and he was really into her because she looked the same as his love from the way before. I think it was like the 1400s. Dracula's eyes roll up. He sleeps peacefully, beautifully as a human. The impalement mark heals itself and completely disappears. At long last, the warrior prince is at peace, and our story is ended. Last card. All right, here's another cool special effect mask of one of the Bat Draculas. It's a pretty good picture showing off the prosthetics that they made. I like when they would do these masks, even if they don't necessarily look as good as the computer-generated ones. I really like when they're filming something that actually exists instead of just putting it in on a computer after. Dracula holds Mina close, consummating an unholy wedding just as Van Helsing and his people burst in the room. From out of nowhere, a humanoid bat incarnation of Dracula swoops down upon the men. Eyes red with rage, Van Helsing advances, raising a large crucifix. Your war against God is over. You must pay for your crimes, the scientist shouts. I think they called him a scientist philosopher. Another good one. Well, here's one, I think it's Winona Rider? I think. No, I can't tell. I think so. Van Helsing and his vampire hunters travel to Dracula's homeland for a final showdown. Mina, alone with Van Helsing, becomes a creature possessed. She convulses in gasping sobs, prostrate on the cold ground as Van Helsing grabs a stick from their campfire and quickly draws a crude ring around the two of them. Satan's whores, he shouts to Dracula's approaching vampire brides. Leave us, this is holy ground. So I guess he made like a little makeshift house that they had to be invited in. That was just a line on the ground. Oh, here's a pretty sweet Gary Oldman card too. Getting all the Draculas. I like that. So this is with him at the start, and then this is him as like a gentleman seducing Winona Rider, and then he turns into the monster. In broad daylight, although he avoids direct sunlight, a young-looking Dracula scans London's rush of humanity, his eyes hidden behind the newest fashion, tinted glasses. He tips his hat to every woman who catches his eye, and finally, by chance, comes upon Mina. She's intrigued by this unusual and rather forward stranger, but doesn't suspect his true, unholy nature. Some shades there. All right, next up, this is Dracula getting back from some crusade. Winona Rider's dead on the ground, and Anthony Hopkins tells him, "Sorry, we can't bless her or whatever, because she killed herself. So, too bad." Thinking that her warrior prince has been killed in battle, Dracula's beloved Elizabeth kills herself and is condemned by the church. Furious, Dracula renounces all that is holy and begins his strange, lonely new life as a vampire. Mrs. Corner said that armor doesn't look very, very 1400s, and I think that it looks... I think it looks more like it's from the movie The Cell. All right, here is, I think this is the stagecoach that takes Keanu Reeves to Dracula's castle. He did this weird thing where he kind of like picked him up by the head and then just like walked him into the carriage, or made him like swoop and slide into the carriage. At Borgo Pass, Count Dracula's carriage arrives and a strange black-clad coachman beckons to Harker. Determined to complete his mission, the young Englishman steps into the vehicle and is driven to the Count's mountainside castle. Not sure who that actor is. When I was watching the movie, I thought it looked kind of like a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings. All right, got a cool snow shot there. Coppola's camera crew catches all the action as a coach roars up on a lone mountain path in Transylvania. This storyboard depicts a coach driven by Van Helsing and Mina rushing up Borgo Road. The one character we haven't got yet is Tom Waits, who played Renfield, his little servant guy. That is a pretty cool shot, though. And here's another comic book Dracula. This hairstyle had a lot of parodies. There was Dracula Dead and Loving It with Leslie Nielsen, and then there was also a Simpsons episode that they took a lot from this movie for that one Simpsons sketch. And here they are. Here are his brides doing their thing with Keanu. Trapped in the castle, Harker eventually confronts Dracula's 3 vampire brides. They seduce and engulf him, only to be interrupted by the Count himself, who wishes Harker unharmed for the present. Art by Mike Magnola. I guess these are from the comics. That would be my guess. I'm not sure, though. Here's a pretty nice picture of Keanu Reeves showing his Bill and Ted haircut. And his accent was, man, it was so bad. Like Winona Rider's wasn't like amazing, but every time he said anything, it's just like took me right out of it. And like it's like Mrs. Corner turned to me and she's like being like, whoa, like imitating Bill and Ted. It was just ridiculous. Like some of the times where he just drop his accent entirely, or like it's just really, really bad. That was definitely like the worst part of the movie, I think, was Keanu Reeves' accent. Summoning his courage, Harker picks the lock on his door and embarks on a terrifying exploration of Count Dracula's castle. He comes upon a portion of the building intended for ladies in bygone days. Exhausted, he sits on an arrangement of pillows as shadows from the moonlight eerily play against him. The castle also had a lot of stuff like being affected by reverse gravity. So like things would drip upwards and stuff like that. All right, and we got one more card. This wasn't Winona Rider, but her friend got bitten by Dracula first, and this is them trying to save her. Oh, I guess this is Francis Ford Coppola giving her some direction. They did the thing that one of the old, I'm not sure if it was Frankenstein or Dracula, but where they like, it was probably one of the old Draculas from the 50s Hammer, where they would be like taking blood from one person and putting it into her to try to like flush out the vampire blood, I guess. With like a little syringe that he uses to like sort of pump the blood from one guy to the other. Under the watchful eye of director Francis Ford Coppola, Professor Van Helsing tends to the possessed Lucy, who's played by Sadie Frost. And the storyboard here depicts Lucy in the seductive, deadly embrace of Dracula. All right, I do like these ones that are about the direction. It's nice to have at least something that's not just a screenshot from the movie. Although even in that regard, I think they did a pretty good job picking screenshots from the movie that work pretty good. I really like these 5 character cards the most. Got a nice Keanu Reeves of the collection and a nice Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is a really good actor. He's played a lot of different roles where he's a lot of the time dressed up and looks nothing like he usually does. And here is him dressed up as the monster Dracula, and here he is as the Count Dracula from Transylvania. And this other guy, I forget what his name is, Richard E. Grant. All right, let me know what you guys thought of this card opening, this card set in the comments. Let me know which card was your favorite. Don't forget to like the video if you had a good time. I'm trying to open more of these sort of horror themed ones since it's close to Halloween. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more card related nonsense. This is Card Corner opening Bram Stoker's Dracula. Take it easy.